Stream, a nightly stream. I'm Pugs Moran. That's James Parker. Say hi, James, since we're already in the middle. Look at him. There he is.
What's up, nerds?
This is the nighttime stream. I do another stream during the day at noon. It's called High Noon. Topics, hot topics, current events, all that kind of stuff, trends. It's just like a cheat sheet for your day. It'll give you all the stuff that you need to know. So you just, you never feel like, I didn't know that. I hadn't heard. I'll give you all like the stuff. The stuff. I'm not going to tell you it's the important stuff. I'll give you stuff that you can change the subject with. James, I always like that. That's why I always like to think of like a listener to my noon show. Like one of the ways that they might be able to utilize my noon show is like just if they get themselves in a weird conversation with somebody and they don't know what to say to them. You find yourselves in these professionally awkward situations. You can just say, "Hey, did you hear about that guy?" And then and it'll be a story that I talked about, just like something stupid.
Well, I like to put a little more fantasy in my imagination on how I'm helping the audience because I imagine like I'm whipping off like little one-liners and jokes and telling cute stories. And then later on, it might be tomorrow, this weekend, it might be a month from now, but you're going to be at, like a friend's party and there's going to be a beautiful girl and you're going to get a chance to talk to her and you're going to borrow my one-liner and I'm going to help you score.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah. I like to just double down on the fantasy aspect of that because I know that does not happen.
So the noon show is just me alone, hot topics, current events. It's just me talking about current events, Monday through Friday, noon till whenever. And then we do this Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's myself and it's Parker, and we talk about stuff. I don't know if we have Buffalo tonight or not. He's got quite a bit going on. If he pops in, he'll pop in. If not,
Buffalo?
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. That's what I call him. I call him Buffalo. E the artist.
Yeah, no, Zombieland nomenclature works, where you're identified by your hometown.
Well, no. The reason I call him Buffalo is because he's Buffalo in my phone. He is listed in my phone as Buffalo. Why? Because I used to use voice all the time. I used to say call, but it used to be in there as, his name is Emil. Emil. And for some reason, my voice recognition didn't hear me say Emil and would be like calling anal, like stuff like that. So
I had an anal. Yeah.
So I had to change it to something that it would understand that I would also correlate to him, and that's Buffalo. So I just say to my phone, call Buffalo, and they call him.
Oh, yeah, I was briefly watching the High Noon show today and commented, and I made the same joke 4 other people did. The weirdo dude that you reported on from the Tennessee lieutenant governor who likes commenting on dudes' butts. His name's Randall McNally, but we all recognize that it was the map guy. He took a break from making all these maps to go check out some teenage ass.
Okay, I'm so glad you know the story. Because I don't care whatever you're into, right? Neither of us give a shit if you're gay or not. But what I particularly
get your heart out. Go ahead. Yeah.
What I love about this story is that that might be something that a dude my age, your age, maybe even a few years older than me, 60-year-old dude might be able to weather. They might be like, okay, you caught me. Finally, after all these years, I'm a gay man. And you might actually be able to live out your life in some form of sexual peace, right? No, not hiding anymore. Not this dude. This dude is like 75. This is like the ultimate worst thing you could say that dude's gay. You know what I mean? Because he comes from that generation where that is the worst. And he's been hiding his whole life, and now he's out. He's 75. He's a great grandpa. Great grandpa is liking thirst traps on Instagram of dudes showing their balls.
Well, here's the weird part about that, and I don't agree with this. This is not my position, but evolutionarily speaking, the ability.
Oh, hold that thought. I know it's important. Hey, Buffalo. We were just explaining why I call you Buffalo. What's going on with you over there?
I have no link.
Hold on. Oh my God, you don't. I am so sorry. James, you didn't get a link either. James.
I don't need a link. I'm on the team. I can jump in the studio without a link.
All right, how do we add Emil to the team? It's not important because he's going out of town for a little bit.
Yeah, we'll do that when he gets back or whatever. But yeah, I don't need just effing links.
All right. Hey, yeah, I am so sorry. That was totally my mistake. It's easy.
He badmouthed you a little bit too.
What's that?
Said he badmouthed you a little bit too.
He did. That was bad mouthing. I'm like, he said he'd be here. All right.
Well, I've been here.
I know.
I
No.
sent you a text that said link.
Oh, I didn't get a text. We're just here gabbing away. All right. Well, you should have the link now, so we'll see you in a minute.
Okay.
Okay. Bye. All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead. We were talking.
It takes all the fire out of it now. But like when you talk
Well,
about biology,
go ahead.
when you talk about biology, people explain whether or not a group, like a species, a clan, a flock, a herd, whatever, of animals is successful or not, whether or not their population is growing or contracting. And, if contracting, that's generally considered a bad thing. Growing is generally considered a good thing. So reproduction is one of the things that's a sign of a healthy society. And so if you are badgering your otherwise gay people into go ahead and reproducing, there's a biological argument for that. Now, I don't agree with it. I don't say that doesn't justify people being dicks to gay people.
Yeah.
But I just find it odd that, overall for the species as a whole, more people is a good thing. And so, maybe let this guy have both worlds. At least he gets to have kids and grandkids and contribute to the gene pool and to the population. And then at the same time, he can still do his butt stuff.
Now at 75. At 75, he can go and do, as you said, butt stuff.
Yeah, butt it up.
All right. Speaking of butt stuff, let's bring in E the artist into this little.
Speaking of butt stuff.
How did I get into the butt stuff?
I don't know.
Just lucky.
I'll bring you up to speed. We were talking about some lieutenant governor in Tennessee who, obviously he's evangelical, right wing, all that kind of stuff. And this story is really getting some amplification because he's leading the charge there. Some weird drag show law, right? Isn't that what he's behind, James? Something like that. That lieutenant, he's like.
Yeah, and it fits the pattern. Like when your preacher preaches about gay people way too much, he's probably gay. If some guy's like he sees all the problems in the world and he's got to go to the legislature with a drag queen bill of any sort, that's a bad sign.
So either people are coming after him, like the gay rights people are coming after him, and they went into his social media history, his Instagram and all that. And he's like a 75-year-old great grandpa. He's literally a great grandpa. So he's like an old, lovable Southern gentleman kind of politician guy. And he's got a bunch of friends on Instagram who are like dude prostitutes who like show their balls and stuff. And he's liking and commenting. Nice balls, Taylor. Like saying stuff like that.
Nice ass. Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And he just looks
I
like.
didn't think they showed that stuff on Instagram.
I don't know. Do they show it? I don't know what they show. I've seen porn on Facebook, but not on. No, I've seen porn on Twitter, but not Facebook.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't Instagram and Facebook the same thing?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Aren't they both
the same company? But okay, it's the same thing. If that's what you mean, yes. Sorry.
Yeah, and one might assume that they would have the same policies regarding obscenity and whatnot.
Right. I take it back.
All right. All right. Hey, James, you want to jump right in tonight? You want to start things off, or you want me to? I'm always prepared, but.
Well, I have one that's. Yeah. Let me start off here because I got a good one. And the reason why I think this is going to be good on this show is because stop it with the drag show talk over there. The reason why I think y'all are going to like this is because my Facebook feed, or at least the New Orleans people on my Facebook and a little bit Twitter, but Instagram or whatever, social media of all sorts, they're pretty vocal about this story and they've got a lot of strong opinions. So let me see what you guys think about this. What we're dealing with here is a situation in New Orleans. This is the Channel 4 report. I'll let them explain it, and then I can fill in more details because doesn't have all the details, but this is pretty close. This is from WWL. Let's go.
You hear people all the time talking about integrity. For me,
that's okay.
It's more than just a word. Integrity is what I live by.
What are we learning
It's putting
about?
people and the
Tulane
community
University?
first. It's fighting for justice. I'm Ron Austin.
Please.
Oh,
Lawyer.
call me.
He's probably a great lawyer, whatever.
Probably.
Anyway.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for watching. I'm Katie Moore.
And I'm Sharice Gibson. A New Orleans man has been arrested after shooting a teenager accused of trying to break into his car.
Yeah, some of the charges are related to the large amount of marijuana that police allegedly found in the man's home. But many are asking, was the shooting itself justified? Sam Winstrom's joining us now in the studio with new information on the case. Sam?
Well, that is the question a lot of people are asking today. Was Denzel Peters protected by the law when he fired his gun at 2 teenagers breaking into his car? And figuring that out starts with a surveillance video that captured the whole thing. If you live in New Orleans, you've seen video like this before. Police say this is a stolen car moving slowly through a neighborhood and then stopping as teenagers inside attempt to break into a parked car. But this time, someone's waiting for them. Police say 26-year-old Denzel Peters saw the 2 teenage suspects trying to break into his car and shot at them from his front porch. You can see the car speed away, crashing through a fence and into another car. That's where police found the 14-year-old driver suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. Both teenagers were arrested, and later that day, Peters was too. But was the shooting justified?
It all turns on whether or not the defendant in this case had a reasonable belief that the use of deadly force was necessary in self-defense.
Loyola Law professor Dane Cialino says that this shooting would not fall under the castle doctrine, where you can protect your car or house if you're inside and someone is breaking in. Instead, it'll come down to this question. Was using deadly force justifiable to stop this crime?
Apparently there were guns in the car, but whether they brandished the guns or he otherwise saw them possessing the guns remains to be seen.
Along with those guns, New Orleans police say the 2 teenage suspects had glass cutters, masks, gloves, and several other burglary tools in the car with them. But while that evidence will likely be used in their own trial, it may not help Peters' case.
People are frustrated, obviously. People would like this to stop, but you can't use deadly force to stop a property crime.
And while Denzel Peters was arrested for the shooting, what he'll ultimately be charged with is up to the district attorney's office. Charisse?
All right, Sam, thank you so much.
All right, guys.
You're the one, A1 betting.
All right, thoughts? Initial
Okay,
thoughts?
so first of all, just let me get something clear. So the guy who came out firing, the guy who looked out his front window, saw a bunch of stooges breaking into his car and came out firing, that guy had a house full of weed?
10 ounces, yeah.
All right, so that's got nothing to do with nothing. That's just a fun fact on the side of it. Are you suggesting that it does have something to do with something?
No, not at all. Pfft, no one cares about weed. New Orleans is
He's a
going to
weed
be
dealer. He's a weed dealer, so we know the kind of dude he is on a Tuesday morning. Is that what you're getting at? He's got guns.
Maybe.
Okay. It's just a fun little addendum, right? Because the issue at hand here is, was he in the right to use deadly force to protect his car from being broken into? Is that the question you're asking me?
Well, everyone, the fun part about this story is I've asked 10 different people and gotten 10 different nuanced opinions. So before I just start spewing off at the mouth, what do you think?
I think that the weed had nothing to do with it, but that's just a fun fact. Okay. And the other thing is that, yeah, no, I don't think that you should be able to use deadly force because you see someone breaking into your car.
Okay, so there's a couple of context pieces that all of my New Orleans,
because you told me before I made that statement that there was more that I needed to know, and that you
exactly, and no, that's totally fair, because I wanted to hear what you thought before the rest of this context, because outside people who see this tend to have a different reaction than people who've lived in New Orleans, especially for a long time. Number one is no one really understands how exhausting crime can be unless you live in a crimey area. And this isn't like endemic to New Orleans. If you live on the wrong side of any major American city, I imagine you go through what we go through. But everywhere in New Orleans, on a regular basis, there are guys who go down the street at 3 a.m. Some guys driving, there's a couple guys walking, and they pull on car door handles. They pull on all the car door handles in your driveway, anything that's parallel parked in the street. They'll go through that. If a house looks empty, they'll check the front door, and if anything's unlocked, it's all open. If they can see anything, the sloppy ones will smash and grab, but the pros, which is more common, they have glass cutters.
Yeah, they're crews. They're professional crews put together by somebody who's at a higher rank in their little gang or crew.
Professional.
What they're doing, this is their job. They are professional at their jobs.
Right. So when you're on the Nextdoor app, are you on the Nextdoor app? It's like
I'm not.
okay, it's like Facebook, but just for your neighborhood. So that's who you're friends with automatically, and you can widen your neighborhood to count other neighborhoods. And it's really good for like finding lost dogs or hey, I don't need this crib anymore. I'm just going to leave it on the curb if anyone wants it. But in New Orleans, it's just Judgment Night. It's like, oh my god, who heard gunshots at 2 a.m. last night? And, hey, there was a dead. Seriously, I saw yesterday on because I still follow it on New Orleans because I followed it here in Buck Tussle for a while and it was boring. So I went back to follow in my neighborhood in New Orleans and someone found there was like a dead body that was on the side of Toussaint and St. Anthony Street, and that's like a mile and a half from where I used to live. And so the discussions that we have are again exhausting when you're in New Orleans. Hey man, I saw somebody pulling on door handles a couple blocks over last night. Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah, someone broke into my car last night. And my buddy John that passed away, his car had been broken into twice because he lived downtown. It's just and when I say broken into, he had a convertible Miata. Someone just takes a knife, cuts it open. They take the change out of the console because that's all he had.
Right.
So a lot of people are like, look, that's wrong. He shouldn't have done it, but it's extenuating circumstances. And on some hand, maybe by the letter of the law, it's not right, but we all understand. We all know how he feels and why he did what he did. And maybe I wouldn't have acted in the same way, but New Orleans is full of people who are either criminals or really fed up with criminals. Okay. So, you're gonna rub some people the wrong way if you come in here and be like, look, man, if you're not in danger, then you can't just be frivolously shooting at people. It's not frivolously shooting at people. He's having his car broken into. If the guy has something in his right hand, how is he supposed to ask him if that's a gun or not? And there's also
that changes. Hold on, that changes the metric completely when you introduce the idea that this person might have a weapon and that you now, while telling them to leave my stuff alone, which you have every right to do, if in you doing that you now feel threatened because you think he might have a gun, then yeah, now we're talking about a different scenario. But if you just see like some dude and he doesn't have a gun and you think you can just kill him because he's stealing your tape deck, I understand the violation. I have had my car broken into multiple times. I know the idea that you want to kill somebody because they broke into your car. But what you've just described to me, yes, it changes my opinion of the story.
okay. Now there's 2 other stories that come up.
Hold on, I'll take this moment now to bring back in Buffalo. He's back in.
Hey.
You missed all the important stuff.
I'm sorry. Got some drama going on.
Oh, I know. That's okay. Please, if you need to go, you can go. You got a lot of stuff going on here in the next.
No, there's not really much I can do at this point. I'm just had to answer a phone call. If I get another phone call, I just might need to answer it.
No worries. I'll take you off. So I saw you struggling with the sound. I'll notice and I'll take you off like I did there. Go ahead, James. Continue.
Okay, so the 2 stories that keep being brought up here are sort of like the legal analogs that are sticking in the minds of people, because in New Orleans we had very similar, not identical, very similar case that happened in 2013. There was this guy, his name's Merrick Landry. He lives in the Marigny, and that doesn't mean anything to you, but to New Orleans people, that is sort of the frontier of gentrification. Like the line, what used to be the ghetto is kind of moving up toward the 9th Ward.
Sure.
And so it is buttered up to where Marigny used to be absolute ghetto, but French Quarter bled into the Frenchman Street area. Now it's bled into the Marigny. And so they are right next to the worst neighborhoods America has to offer. And I'm not saying that as an exaggeration. So far, over the
Tell
last...
that to Fox News. Because they keep dragging my hometown, and specifically my home neighborhood of the South Side.
Yeah, and y'all deserve a lot of credit there, but New Orleans beats you every once in a while. And right now, or for 2022, New Orleans was the 9th most dangerous city on planet Earth.
Everybody beats us. Chicago wasn't even in the top 25. St. Louis is the most dangerous city in America year in and year out. Somehow, if you bump into somebody in Nebraska and ask them what's the most dangerous city, and my city gets dragged. But go ahead, James.
Because y'all have the highest nominal number of murders. Y'all have like 500. And the crazy part is New York has like, 3 times as many people and half the murders that y'all have. So, I mean, there's a reason why y'all get such bad press, but New Orleans is worse on a per capita basis for sure. So in 2013, There was a similar incident where a kid was pulling on a door handle, and I think he was 14 as well. Isn't this crazy? I mean, he might have been 15. He was definitely a minor and not by a year. And so him and his friend, there was two guys that were just going from yard to yard. But there's a couple of differences here. Number one is this guy has a fenced-in yard, and I don't mean like he has a white picket fence that you can hop over. It's a 6-foot fence that you have to climb over. And so there was a kid that was pulling on his door handle in his yard, but if you have to jump a fence or the gate to get in there, does that activate the castle doctrine necessarily? And also, when he shot, he wasn't outside. He was standing in his doorway. And if his feet are in his house, does that change it? And then also, the kid did have a screwdriver. He had a flathead screwdriver in his hand. And we think that was to hotwire it or jam it into the ignition to get it to start, or I don't know what it's for. Maybe it was just to bust the window. We don't know. But he did have something in his hand. And so those were the three details that we had in that story that we don't have in this one. He did get arrested. He did get charged, but the charges were dropped because specifically he had something in his hand that could have been mistaken for a weapon. He had reason to believe for his life. And then the gray area of the kid jumping the fence to get in there and him standing in his doorway. We do have a legal precedent of someone getting off. Now, his life was ruined. Part of the reason that story was so popular is because the shooter was white and the kid's black, and so the black activists had to go march up and down the street in the Marigny, and they had to make a big to-do about it. Luckily, that's not going to cloud up this case because both the shooter and the victim are black, so race isn't going to be an issue. But we still have.
Oh, that's always nice. That's always nice.
It helps, doesn't it? Doesn't muddy up the water.
It's nice.
All right. So he just had to go there. Yeah. Those are the differences in circumstances. Now, if you judge by that, really all this kid needs to do is have something in his hand, or the guy believes reasonably that he had something in his hand, and maybe he gets off because that could be the little piece of evidence to convince a jury or a judge, or hell, even a grand jury at this point, that he had reason to fear for his life and the shooting was therefore justified. Now, the other story that keeps coming up is the Joe Horn shooting in Houston. Do you remember that? That was also a little more than 10 years back. That was...
No, I mean, I know Joe Horn, the NFL wide receiver.
No, different guy.
Oh, no, I really wanted it to be that guy. Go ahead, tell me the story.
No, Joe Horn's never killed anybody that I know of, the receiver. I mean, he killed it in the NFL, that's for sure. But Joe Horn was in Houston. He calls 911. Wait, you really... Oh, man, I think I might have this 911 call. You want me to look it up real quick?
Yeah.
I really thought you would be all over that one. No offense. Hang on, let me find it.
No, that's okay. You can fill time.
Yeah. So by
the way, Jeff Ballard, Chicago does not have the most murders. Not last year anywhere. New York did. New York had the most murders. Chicago isn't even in the top 25 in top murders per capita.
No. But nominal number of murders. Nominal number. I think y'all did beat New York in the.
We're not number one in any of these statistics that I've seen. I don't know how you are. How are you defining nominal murder? The only thing we're number 2 in total number of murders. There were 458. New York had 471. Detroit, which is half the size of Chicago, had 363. And then there's all these other.
Wait, who's number 1?
New York City, 471.
Whew, y'all usually beat them. Some years you like. Anyway, so I found the phone call. So this is Joe Horn's phone call.
Well, no, we always beat them in per capita murders. That's we always beat them, but I don't think we beat them in raw numbers, actual body count, because that's what you're talking about, right? Body count.
Yeah, but let's go to this.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Let's not get into it. Right. I was just filling time because you were doing something else. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you though. So we're in Houston. We're in I think it was Pasadena. It's a Houston suburb, if I'm not mistaken. And the phone call goes into 911 like this.
Pasadena 911, what is your emergency?
Burglars breaking into a house next door.
What's the address there, sir?
7418 Timberline Drive. I've got a shotgun. Do you want me to stop them?
Nope, don't do that. Ain't no property worth shooting somebody over, okay?
Well, they're breaking in right now. They're in their house? Okay, he's coming out the window right now. I got to go, buddy. I'm sorry, but he's coming out the window.
Don't go out the door, Mr. Horn.
God damn it, they just stole something. I'm going out the window. I'm sorry. I ain't gonna let them get away with it. They stole something. They got a bag of something. House. This ain't right, buddy.
You're going to get yourself shot if you go outside that house with a gun.
You want to make a bet? They weren't getting away.
That's all right. Property's not worth killing someone over.
They got a bag of loot. I'm going outside. I'll find out.
No, I don't want you going outside, Mr. Horn.
Well, here it goes, buddy. You hear the shotgun clicking, and I'm going.
Don't go outside.
Whoa, you're dead.
Joe Horn was absolved of all charges.
Yeah, I bet he was.
In Texas, the castle doctrine is a little more robust in the fact that you can shoot someone for a property crime.
No.
So, this is all the context that it keeps getting thrown around in this debate that I've been reading for the last few hours, and a lot of people are making a lot of good points, and so I see a lot of my friends asking, should we need to change the law in Louisiana so this isn't an issue, because it'll never stop. If they know they can just go tug on your car handles, and as long as there's nothing in their hands, they can just I'll yell oxen free. You caught me, but I get to run away, and you can't get me. People are really pissed. People are really pissed that you can't just shoot these guys because it is way out of control in New Orleans, and there's a lot of people that feel really strongly about
Car
it.
thieves, people who are not carjackers, not kidnappers, not carjackers, car thieves, just guys pulling on handles late at night. People are upset they can't murder them.
Kind of.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I mean,
I don't agree in the fact that if someone's pulling on my car handle, I'm going to go out there and end their life.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of sympathy for people who do. The world needs people like
That's
that.
interesting. You have sympathy for those people. I mean, look, I don't have sympathy. I understand them. I understand that they're very emotional and they react to things on the base surface. I said that I lived on the south side of Chicago. My car got broken into a whole bunch of times. One time I got my entire world stolen out of my car, and I saw it happen. I had been out with some friends. It was a Thursday night. Bars were closed. I was probably 22, 23. My friends had dropped me off in the alleyway. I was walking up my side of my house. I looked at the front. I saw my car, and I saw what appeared to be somebody doing something in my car. I walked up further, and at that point, they jumped into another car and pulled off. I had just assumed that they were my neighbors or something. In the morning, I wake up. I go out to my car. Window is smashed. Everything is stolen out of it. And I, in that moment, wanted those people dead. I completely had an irrational, inhuman reaction to it. So I do. So I understand it. But, we have to be better, more evolved people and sort of cherish human life a bit more than that.
Well, I do. But if other people aren't as civilized as you and me, there is a net benefit to society as a whole. Just like I wouldn't recommend if anytime someone insults you or says something rude or says the N-word or something that's, just incorrigible, that you punch them in the face. But I'm glad society has these people to keep them in check, because there's a lot of people who don't run around spouting off just because they've been punched in the face before. They don't want to happen again.
Yeah.
Or they've seen other people get punched in the face before. And so it's sort of like the same sort of cultural asshole containment violence that's useful. It's still violence, and I still try not to participate in violence. But that's sort of the general tenor. It's the same idea that I hear. It's just being very rudely and clumsily spewed all over social media right now. I'm trying to put a handle on it.
Well, the human being, the human emotional scale is an incredibly complicated mechanism, and we barely understand it at all. And most of us who go through therapy or find out at some point that we've got something broken and we need to sort of investigate, maybe we have a different understanding of how we react to these kinds of things. I have absolutely no judgment or any sort of ire for people who might be, what did you say? Less evolved? How did you sort of smugly put it? But it was something like that. I don't have any ire for those people. I understand it. I get it. But we can't kill people because they stole your tape deck. Sorry, we just can't. That's gotta be etched in a mountainside somewhere. Just like
I disagree. And there's a lot of history that goes counter to that. Like cattle rustlers. If you're caught stealing a horse or a cow,
sure.
You get shot on the spot and no questions asked. And it's
but that doesn't mean it was right. And in fact, it probably bespeaks how wrong it was that we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, but did it work? The pragmatic James says did it work?
You're willing to bargain with the moral worth of human life based on whether or not, because that sounds like something the Nazis would have done with just exterminating people. Did it work?
No. Okay, I
We're
don't.
talking about human life here, so be a bit
We
more
are, we are
delicate.
talking- okay, but then the conversation comes. Is a human life worth property? If not, then don't risk your life for that property.
I think it depends on the property. I
I,
think it really does. I
but
think
if
it
we're allowed
really
to
does
shoot
depend on the
them,
property.
if we're allowed to shoot them, a property is not worth someone's life is now a restriction on the criminal, not the non-criminal, the victim here. Because now we're trying to curtail the activities of the people who are being victimized by the criminals. I'm cool with you shooting the criminals. And look, I don't think society just lost the guy who was going to cure cancer. If you're rolling down the street at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday in a stolen Kia, you didn't even steal a Mustang or something nice, and you're tugging on car handles, right? It's sad. Every life is precious, but some.
Well, that's how we got to operate. We're challenged in that belief, I'm sure, with every interaction we have with a stranger. But we must wake up every morning and tell ourselves that. If we can still do it by the end of the day, then we were a success. If not, that's how people turn into mall shooters.
Well, the another thing that comes up is the castle doctrine, the way it's written for like the situation in Houston. If it was that way in New Orleans, would we have less crime?
I don't know. How are you?
I don't know either, and that's why I love this discussion.
You might have more of a different kind of crime. Might you have less? You might have far less successful tape decks being stolen out of cars. You, however, might have way more gunshot wounds, way more of those kinds of things.
Yeah, look, it's really hard to tell because when Texas instituted that law, it was already on the downward trend. Crime generally since the early 90s has just been going down.
Yes.
No matter what everyone does. So yeah, they instituted the Newcastle Doctrine laws in Texas, and crime has gone down, but not significantly different from the trend line it was already on. Same thing in Florida when they beefed up their Castle Doctrine laws. Yeah, crime went down, but I don't know if it was because of that law. So can we try it in New Orleans? I mean, I don't care. I don't live there anymore. Y'all shoot each other up all you want, but it's a really tough discussion. This one isn't easy.
All right, my turn. Page 2, and now I've got hiccups. Okay, I'm sorry that E is gone because I really wanted his mixed up, weirded out. Oh my God, I got terrible hiccups. I was just thinking about how I never get hiccups on this show.
Well, let's see. How would Emil react to that? Because what do you think, Emil? Can you shoot him? He's like, I don't know. Is he a made man? Have you permission first? Is that what he asked?
I don't know, but he's got a lot going on right now. So that's why he had to duck out. Okay, so I don't know if you know this or not, but yesterday was the anniversary of where is it? Let me find it exactly. I had this thing. Hold on. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, now I need a second, right? I'm sorry. There we go.
Oh, you got it?
I got it. Although it is always appropriate for, is that Hardcastle and McCormick? Yeah, thank you. It's like the Jello of music. There's always room for Hardcastle and McCormick. No, yesterday was the anniversary of, I'm trying to figure out how long, 6, 7, 8, 9. It was the 9-year anniversary of the disappearance of the Malaysian Airlines flight. Do you remember this story?
Oh, is that why they did the Netflix show? They just released the Netflix MH70 or SR71 or Blink 182 or whatever it was.
It's called Malaysia Flight 370, I believe is what it's called. I believe MH370, I think is what it's called, the Netflix thing. So I watched the Netflix thing. I watched it this afternoon. I had to stay in the house here. That's one of the reasons why Emil is going a little bit nuts. I couldn't leave because I had a dog and there was a whole bunch of stuff going on outside and there was stuff being done to the inside of the house. So I was like babysitting because the dog had to be cooped up in here and I have to be here when the dog's cooped up in here or else the dog will destroy the place. So I decided this afternoon that I would watch a little bit of this new Netflix special, MH370. Now, this isn't a review because I'd like to state my case first and foremost. This is one of my favorite stories of all time. James, have you and I ever talked about MH370 before?
No. No, I don't think we talked about it even passingly for 5 seconds.
James, I was obsessed with this story. This story occupied the better part of a year of my life when I was in a particularly down
I
place.
think you might have wasted your time.
Watching scene. Well, okay, so I will challenge you on that. So let me just ask you what you think you know about it, because that's the thing. I mean, I've been following this thing now for 9 years, tirelessly. Look at the gray in this beard. I was a handsome young man when I started. What do you tell me your thoughts on Malaysia Airliner 370, which disappeared? Because I've never talked about my thoughts on either the stream or anything.
The Malaysian airliner was around the West Indies, sort of that Indonesia, Malaysia sort of area between Australia and, that Vietnam sort of. And so it was flying over those islands. At some point, the transponder got off track and then it just disappeared. And there was no radio communication. There was no SOS. There was no, we're running out of fuel, or we're having engine trouble, or Rick farted. There was nothing. And so the tough part about this is we have absolutely no clues. And then there was no wreckage. There was nothing ever found. There's pieces of planes that float, and we didn't even find that, much less the black box. And I have never seen a plane crash and we haven't been able to find it before. Like, has this ever happened?
Now I don't understand why this isn't ringing more bells for you. This is why, because it was absolutely on the day before this happened. If you had said to me, James, hey, did you hear about that plane that completely disappeared off radar and everybody vanished in thin air? I'd be like, that's not anything that could ever happen, because commercial airline travel in this world has become perfected. They know where these planes are at all time. It's big, right? If the day before this fucking plane disappeared, I would have told you exactly what I just said. Now, I don't know. I have no idea. Not only do I now not know if when I get in a plane the next time that I could just disappear. I don't know that anymore. I used to think there was no way that could happen because of satellites and planes and tracking and beacons and all that shit. No, apparently, no, we were all wrong. But it opened up a Pandora's box for me, James, of what else do I take for granted? What else in this world do I think could never happen, which apparently... Anyway. So it's a fascinating story to me.
My theory, can I just throw it out before?
Yeah, please go ahead. Tell me your theory.
All right. My personal theory is this plane was struck by lightning, or it went through a cloud that was producing lightning at some point. And so it had the effect of an electromagnetic pulse. And just like if your house gets struck by lightning and all your electricity goes out, even if you're close to a bolt of lightning, it does make an electromagnetic pulse, like in Ocean's 11 or whatever that was, when they take out all the power.
I'll stop you right there. This was a B777. There is absolutely no bolt of lightning that could do anything to this thing. But go ahead, continue with your thing.
Really? So if there's a bolt of lightning like right next to it,
no, direct hit. These things, B777s, man, they don't fall from the sky easily. That's why this is a state of the art. Like,
I think there has to be some sort of electrical issue that caused the transponder and all the track and stuff to go out. And also, I mean, the only other explanation would be if someone just hit it with a missile, maybe. But that's all I got. My thought is the same thing that blew out the transponder and their ability to communicate. All you have to do is blow out the electronics on one of these things, and you're stewed. So electronics issue. Maybe it just blew a fuse. I don't know.
So let me give you my little my thoughts on this, okay? Because as I said, I've been fascinated by this for years. Since they CNN stuck that guy Martin, he was a white Canadian reporter, Martin, I forgot his name, but he used to be always on there whenever. The worst fucking place possible where they could send a reporter, they would send this Martin guy. And they made him be in a submarine at the bottom of the Indian Ocean for like a month. Every day he was reporting from the submarine. It was not cool. Anyway, so a couple of things trouble me about this. This plane completely, James laid it out for you. He got a lot of things right. He got a couple of things that are not wrong because James is stupid, but because, that's the public perception of it. Because
I'm wildly uninformed on this story. I did not follow the coverage.
You hit the bullet points of what the average person has probably been programmed and prepared to believe is an acceptable story. However, you still do not know what happened, right? Where is it?
Of course not. No.
Okay, so that doesn't bother you to the extent that it bothers me. See, it bothers me. The why bothers me because people, I love getting on planes all the time. And I don't. Okay.
Well, let Southwest figure that out.
See, again, just taking it for granted that Southwest, no.
They have a built-in financial incentive to figure out why planes disappear and make sure it doesn't happen to them.
they do, unless there are things they don't know and they're just gambling and rolling the dice, because that's what
Well,
business
then,
also
then they're
does.
innocent. Then
all the
they're
time.
absolved of guilt.
Couple of things that bother me about the story. As James pointed out, yes, it did. It completely vanished off radar, just as it was leaving Kuala Lumpur, Malaysian airspace and entering into South Vietnamese airspace. Now, there is about a 30-mile patch of the China Sea there, where they're really not anyone's main priority. About 30 miles in the sky over the China Sea. They said goodbye to Malaysian air traffic control. Malaysian air traffic control said, we're going to hand you over now to Vietnamese air traffic control. You have a good night, 370. And 370 said, you have a good night, too. And now for the next 30 miles, they're no longer a priority of the Malaysian air traffic control, because Malaysia's just handing them off. And for the next 30 miles, they're really not technically in Vietnamese airspace that gets a priority. So they're not even being looked at really by the Vietnamese until about another 30 miles. So isn't it curious, James, that all of the power, the communications, the responders and the beacons and everything that communicates with satellites in the air or beacons on the ground, everything shut off just in those 30 miles? That's a fact.
Yeah.
It's an indisputable fact.
All it takes is an electrical issue. What if like
but the timing of it? So you do believe in coincidence? I'm very suspect of coincidences in general, especially when it ends in the death of almost 300 people. So I'm wondering, that would be the absolute worst place for them to lose contact. Nobody was noticing.
What do we have? Like 9,000 commercial airline flights on planet Earth a day, and if one of them goes missing every 50 years, that's well within reasonable. What else would it look like?
But now you must ask the next question. How do we stop them from going away? You just don't. You are so cold-hearted. You're just like one plane load of people every 50 years. What are we asking questions for? That's basically your whole attitude.
You can ask questions, but I'm not going to not get on a plane based on those numbers. I'm more likely to die on the way to the airports, even with this horrible crash. In fact, if 10 more planes crash like this year, it would still be safer than me driving to the grocery store.
I don't know. So there's a lot of people. I think it's curious that the plane seems to have gone dark at a very opportune moment for the plane to go dark, especially if someone had wanted to commandeer the plane. There are there's four really, but here are the big theories. One, it was Captain. It was Captain Sahara, whatever his name is. He just decided that he was going to end it. He depressurized the cabin. All of the passengers died from asphyxiation. He was wearing his mask. He then just flew the plane south into the South Indian Sea until it ran out of gas. Boom.
But he didn't say like an Allahu Akbar or anything like that?
No, not at all. Seemed like that's actually a pretty cool guy. I mean, he's been pretty much popular opinion over the past 9 years is that he's been cleared.
I'm thinking of a guy that did crash a plane intentionally. We did have a pilot just want to end his life and he ran into the mountain. Was that
multiple? No, we've had multiple over the years, but yeah, there was one like I know the one you're talking about. Flew right into the mountainside.
Yeah, and I was that a religiously motivated?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what that guy was about.
I always wonder, like, what if your wife leaves you? Like, what if the wife just left the pilot and like hooked up with his brother and took his kids and he didn't get custody and he just wants to end it anyway? And you happen to get on that plane. What's the solution for that, Pugs? There's not a solution for all ills in life.
There's not. Well, look, bad luck hits us all at the most inopportune times. Right?
Well, I operate by the lightning theory, and that is if it's less likely to happen to you than a lightning strike, it's irrational to worry about it.
All right, so something else that bothers me. So here's what we were told about this Flight 370. It was going from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, China. Took off at about 1:20 in the morning, so it's a nighttime flight, a red-eye flight. This is, for one thing, y'all need to understand, this is not a bunch of chickens and goats walking around in the aisles. This is a very, very high-end air service, okay? This is like a real first-world airline. It services Beijing. Have you ever seen Kuala Lumpur? I mean, my God. It's like it's like a Blade Runner, okay? That's what that city looks like. So we're not talking. I know we Americans have a tendency to think that anywhere exotic must be people living in huts and stuff. That is not this part of the world, okay?
Do they have toilet paper?
Yes, of course they do.
Do they wipe with their hand?
They have the finest toilet paper.
All right, because it's the hand wiping countries. That's sort of my cutoff there.
So anyway, this is not some third world airlines, and it's flying an incredibly busy flight path. Middle of the. Do you know how many people are in China? Do you know how many people are in Malaysia? Do you know how many people? Right. Half the globe happens to be in this area. So it's not like it was flying in some strangely secluded place, right? It wasn't like flying up in the Yukon or anything like that. No, this thing is flying over China, in Vietnam, in Malaysia. Anyway, so it takes off over the North China Sea. Just as they get handed off to the Vietnamese air traffic control, they go dark. They vanish. They disappear. At this point, a third party, a satellite company, and this is something that was revealed in the days after, they began tracking them. They were the only people tracking the plane, and they said that the plane made a hard left turn and doubled back over Malaysia. Do you remember that part of the story?
You remember when I said it just turned off course? I think that's what I'm remembering there. Like, there was something that was untoward. It didn't just like, oh, there was nothing wrong and it vanished. Well, there was something a little wrong and then it vanished.
So here is the issue with that. And this is what I find really interesting. And this is what I think is probably the most, certainly not the most probable, but it's the most problematic. So there are a lot of people who at this point, they say this is where the bullshit comes in. A lot of investigators, a lot of like hobbyists in this world say this plane did not make the hard left turn that was reported by the independent commercial satellite company that does a lot of work with the CIA.
Where's that coming from? Why would they doubt these guys?
Well, right. It's like, well, did we so because the plane just disappeared, and then all of a sudden there was this independent satellite company going, well, actually, we seem to have caught a couple of pings going this way, and then the airline was like, but that's not where it was supposed to go, and they're like, eh. So that came out in like the hours after. It was a third party that was saying this is the plane. Now, there was no way to know it was exactly the plane. They know that a plane of that relative size pinged on this radar, but they don't know it was. So anyway, the great debate has been, did the plane actually make a left? Is this satellite tracking company somehow in cahoots with some greater conspiracy, right? Now, I happen to be of the opinion that the plane did not make that left turn. I do think that the stuff about the tracking and the left turn and the random, did it go into the north or did it go to the South China Sea? That's all just a diversion. Why? Because a crazy lady found it on the bottom of the ocean. She's been pushing these pictures around on Facebook and Instagram for years. Yeah, and ain't nobody saying nothing about it. And I believe it's her. Anyway, that's just a side. I don't want to go off on that rant. But in the China Sea, in the area where this plane was flying over, in the area just between Kuala Lumpur airspace and the Vietnamese airspace, here's what was happening. Russia was invading the Crimea. And there was a major war games display going on between the United States and Australian forces in that area of the South China Sea. So I happen to believe that we accidentally shot down that plane, and then that's when suddenly the radar is saying it made a left turn. It was nowhere near where the war games were. But I think something terrible happened. I think accidents, it wasn't done intentionally, but I think there's a big cover up. And I think that most people, it's 9 years later now, we've all just moved on. The cover up worked. Because we're all like, oh yeah, they ever find that thing? And I'm like, what do you mean they ever find that thing? It's a missing airplane. That's a big deal. That's just not they ever find that thing?
Yeah, it's not like you lost your keys. Right. But okay, so I know nothing about this, so let me ask some questions that are going to sound stupid. First off, I want to point out that if U.S. and Australia are caught up in war games, Australia is down here, and the plane went missing up here. So this is Kuala Lumpur. This is the sort of butt end of Vietnam. So it's somewhere in this little area, and that's not very long. I mean, that's what, 200 miles between the two coasts there?
Yeah. Okay. Show me. Put your cursor there on
Kuala Lumpur,
Malaysia, and then take me across the China Sea into Vietnam airspace.
Okay, and then across the China Sea, this is Vietnam airspace right here.
Yeah. Okay, so right in the middle there is where, right in the middle, if you go halfway, that's where the plane disappeared. That's where it went black. Yeah.
Okay, and then we have down here. This is where Australia is. This is where. Okay, so when they do war games, are they going to cover all this area? I'm not saying no because I know Jack squat about the military, but that's my first push.
I don't know, but here's what I do know. All the experts and the big people who have been investigating this for years and years, they say a lot of, and by the way, this isn't actually they touch on it in the Netflix special, but this is just from other stuff that I've fallen into over the years. The Australians did it. The Australians fucked up really bad, and because they were like, our buddies and we were down there fucking around with them, we were like, don't worry, kid, we got it. And that's how it was very strange to the rest of the world. Here's a little fun fact about this. This investigation was carried out. It was led by the FBI. There's absolutely no reason why this investigation should have been led by the FBI. It wasn't an American carrier. It didn't happen over America. Yet the FBI was in charge. The Malaysian government put the Federal Bureau of Investigations in charge of this investigation. And they're the ones that basically confirmed that, yeah, it made a left turn and then just poof, disappeared.
Yeah, so Malaysia was probably like, no, we can investigate our own plane crash. Thank you very much, FBI. And they're like, how would you like some foreign aid? What, a check for $4 billion enough? What about 5?
Exactly.
Why are we going to get busted? Hell no. We know how to launder money like pros. All right, fine. Take it over. I give a rip.
How about we build one of those nice, fancy, military bases for you right here? That's a couple million new tax dollars for. Malaysia would have done whatever the United States asked them to do. So, but it did turn heads. It turned, and it rightfully so. Why would a Malaysian carrier over international waters, but not even near any U.S. coastal waters or anything like that? There were no Americans on board. Why was the FBI of the United States of America in charge of this investigation? It makes no sense.
None. Boy, that is shady. That is shady as hell.
Unless the Americans and the Australians fucked up in the South China Sea, accidentally knocked down a plane, and then they decided to cover it up, and the FBI got on board.
Whoops. Yep, that happens. Whoops.
That was 9 years ago. That's my crazy theory. And I really don't think that theory is that crazy.
Oh, did the Netflix documentary mention that?
I think the Netflix documentary mentions the war games very briefly, but they don't. That's not like they go down other bunny holes.
Do they come to a general conclusion like we're not 100% sure, but we're kind of leaning toward this?
No, they offer you a whole, but basically the Netflix series. It was pretty good. It was interesting. A bit remedial for someone like myself who's been obsessed with this for years. No, it was good though. It was good. It basically just gives you the timeline. It gives you the stats and the data. It gives you everything that they know for sure. And then it introduces you to a whole bunch of different investigators, reporters, family members who have been leading, campaigns. We want the truth. And it talks to them about all of the different theories. And then it one by one goes through those theories and tries to disprove them. But here's the problem. They can't disprove any of the theories because they don't know where the plane is. They don't know. Everything is on the table, James. Because there's zero evidence.
No, I see that theory does hold a lot of water, no pun intended. But because if it was the Americans and Australia that messed up, they found the wreckage first. They cleaned it up, and they're like, man, we didn't find anything. We were out there for days looking in the ocean. We didn't find shit.
And then they sent the world's attention in the exact opposite direction, which would have required there to be now some suspicion put on the pilot for making that hard left turn and deviating from the flight plan. It totally works. If you were trying to cover it up, it disappeared right here. But then look how convenient. Somebody just showed up, the independent satellite company. Somebody shows up out of nowhere and goes, hey, we got some stuff that shows that this plane went that way, away from the war games. It's just all very convenient. It's just all very,
Man, that sucks that you don't know what happened after all this. We don't know.
We'll never know. I don't think we'll ever know. Russia might be involved. The shooting down of MH17 4 months later. Remember when Malaysian airliner?
Yes, another Malaysian airliner got shot down over Ukraine. That was a oopsie.
Accidentally by Russian forces who were at the time, engaging in the Crimean situation.
Yeah, he was supposed to hit B and he hit A.
So they spend a little bit of time in that. I think they spend a little bit of too much time in the Russian connection because they do show how those two events, those two plane crashes are really strange and they do kind of tie together. But it's real flimsy. Like, here's the thing they say. One of the dudes in the first class passenger of the plane that went down was an ethnic Russian, which just means he's an Australian guy with a Russian last name. But they're trying to make the viewer think that he's like, that means he must be a spy.
Yeah, it could have been Chekhov from Star Trek. We don't know.
It just means that it's, Robbie Gundoff from Perth, Australia.
Yeah,
he's an ethnic Russian. I'm an ethnic Irishman. All right, that's all I got. I can recommend watching it. If you're interested in the subject, it's pretty fun. It's not a fun subject. It's actually pretty dark, and there's a lot of really sad moments. I'll tell you this. There's one moment, James. I've never heard anything like this in my life. when I go to hell, if there is a hell, and I don't even know that there is, but should I find myself in hell, I imagine this is what I will be hearing for the rest of my life. James, there was a camera. It was all raw footage. When the families found out that the plane was missing, the Malaysian Airways airplane company, whatever, airline, they brought all the family members and they brought them all into one room, a comfort room, like a family comfort room.
And there's no comfort.
We're talking about 400 people, family members of these 200 plus people who have gone missing. 400 people crammed into a room and all the cameras are rolling. So we're watching footage of this. Do you know what 400 mourning family members sound like in a closed off tight room? James, it was the most heartbreaking, soul crushing sound I've ever heard.
F these people for filming it. Turn off your camera when that happens, you heartless pieces of garbage. Now let's listen to it.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna play it. That would be some kind of major violation because I'd have to pick it off Netflix. But man, that sound will haunt me forever. It was just I had to fast forward through it because it looked like it went on for about a minute and a half, and I was like, nope, I'm not gonna sit in this room for a minute and a half with these people who have just been informed that their children are missing and their wife is missing and their mother is I mean, no, are you kidding me?
Worst news ever. I mean, there's no finality, there's no closure, there's no explanation. You think you're bothered by not getting any answers to this? Have one of your loved ones and their bodies are somewhere, then you'll never know.
And also, a lot of them were like Asian, and like they were like, little old Asian ladies really going for it. Like black ladies at funerals, how they really go for it. Turns out the little Asian ladies really go for it too. So that added to just the horrifyingness of the whole thing.
So sad, dang man.
All right, anything in closing?
I've got two quickies. First off, Yellowstone has been out for years and people are telling me to watch it and I'm almost sick of hearing it, although they just want me to see a good show apparently. So then they came out with 1883 and now they have 1923, isn't that what it is, with Harrison Ford and whatnot?
Yeah.
So now that all this is out, I said, screw this. I'm going to start watching it, but I'm not going to do what all you idiots told me to do. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to watch it in chronological order. So I'm starting with 1883.
I haven't finished 1883. So what, you're going to start watching 1923 in 5 years when they finish 1883?
Maybe so. I'm watching it. I'll watch what they have in chronological order first. Okay, I'm gonna watch.
Here's the better. Can I give you the better plan on this? I'm a TV watching expert. Just watch Yellowstone. It's standalone. Just watch Yellowstone. Then, after you've binged Yellowstone, then watch 1883 into your 1883 into 1923 thing.
Here's what I like about 1883 because I haven't seen Yellowstone. I don't even know what the hell's going on or any of the characters. I know there's like Kevin Costner or something in there. Apparently, Beth's a badass. But 1883.
I hate that.
Is the Oregon Trail video game?
Yeah,
life.
Yeah, it is.
We were playing where someone got bit by a rattlesnake and died. Someone got cholera. Someone has diarrhea. Someone you just got robbed by bandits. You just had to shoot a buffalo.
Well, it's got Sam Elliott. Anything with Sam Elliott and that mustache, he's awesome. And it's got Tobey Maguire, and his daughter is a smoke show. I don't even know who his daughter is. The daughter who narrates 1883. Oh
Elsa.
My God, Elsa, she is like an angel from above. I don't know who that actress is, but
the cutest face ever. It's the cutest face the world's ever had.
God.
My other quickie was I've been digging through the archives to pull up stuff for for Who Killed Live 105.3, and I was just going through some of our old bits, and I don't think half of them would pass muster if they said, hey, we're going to flip it back to Live 105.3 and you can have your show back. I don't think we could play our bits. So could we play the Christmas song? Well, I wrote a few Christmas songs, but do you remember All I Want for Christmas Is That Bitch?
No. I mean, maybe if I hear it, I will, but there was so much good stuff.
You got 3 minutes?
Yeah, let me hear it.
All right. And when you're listening to this, if you have any questions about the words, I can clear it up. But just imagine, could this be played on the radio today?
She goes up to the bar with her low-riding pants. So I buy her a drink and I ask her to dance. The way she dropped that ass, I was hypnotized. And then she ran her hand up the middle of my thighs. She was the finest bitch out on the dance floor. Then we chatted at the bar and we drank some more. I told her come to my place and turn the Christmas lights out. But she had to work early, broke the digits, bounced out. All I want for Christmas is that bitch. It's like I'm a junkie and she's a fish. It's like I'm Michael Jackson and she's a small boy. Not like the tiger from Siegfried and Roy. It's like I'm a fat man and she's a steak. It's like she's the chicken and I'm the shaking babe. I'm Woody Woodpecker and she's a tree. I wish that bitch would be with me. She always listens to 105.3 and her favorite show is Pugs and Kelly. She thinks Sybil is nice and Eric is mean. She loves my PSAs and my Mavericks theme. She says she thinks I'm nice but I call too much. She says I never listen to her or some such. She says I'm cheap but I don't recognize it. I got her a value meal and I even supersized it. All I want for Christmas is that bitch. I bat right-handed and she's bat swift. I hope we'll be together till the very end. But if we break up, then I can fuck all her friends. If she were a choosy mom, I'd change my name to Jim. Back her on Christmas, it's like an extra gift. I put my Oscar Mayer in her hot dog bun. Christmas time is so much fun. Christmas time is so much fun. Go together like a rapper and a gun, like a hamburger patty and a hamburger bun, like nuclear fusion in the core of the sun. Christmas time is so much fun. We go together like a rapper and a gun, like a hamburger patty and a hamburger bun, like nuclear fusion in the core of the sun. Christmas time is so much fun. We go together like a rapper and a gun, like a hamburger patty.
the long fade because he had way more to say. I don't remember that at all. Never heard it before. Fantastic. Why couldn't you play that today? What is your problem with it? I would have.
All I want for Christmas is that bitch. You don't think I'd have an HR meeting after that? You know, this is a Me Too movement, and
Depends on what kind of station you're on. You know what I mean? I don't know. You know what?
The Freak. If you were on the Freak, you think the Freak would let it fly?
Yes, I do.
Oh, we got to get on there then. Let it fly. There's like one in Orlando. Yeah. So,
boy.
Yeah, it gets a lot worse from there. Maybe on the next show we don't have a guest. We'll do the next year I did Lesbian Christmas. That was my Christmas carol.
Okay, I have no problem. Let's go through your archives. Let's because I love hearing this stuff because I forget a lot of it. I don't know what that is, but well, maybe you understand this. I mean, after you do a show, let's say you do a show, and then let's say you go out that evening and you run into a listener, and the listener's like, "Oh, today on the show when you," and then they give you an example of something you did, and you have no recollection of it. Is that just me, or does that happen to you too?
Well, no, and I found the perfect retort to that. They were like, "Oh man, remember last Tuesday when you were talking about when you got in a fight that football game?" I'm like. And they're like, "How do you not remember?" I was like, "What did you eat for lunch last Tuesday?" And they're like, "I don't know." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's the same thing." You asked me about minute details from my life a week ago.
People used to ask me all the time, "Oh my God, today when you said," and I'm like, ah. And Kelly used to say the same thing. Kelly was like, "I don't remember anything when we walk out of that room." I go, "I know, me too." It's like, it's the same phenomenon that befalls me, and my ego will not allow me to take a list to the supermarket. So I'll walk into the store with all of the things I need in my head, and the minute I go through and enter the store, I forget everything.
Yeah.
All right, bye, James.
Later, dude.
See you next week. There he goes. That's James Parker. You can support the show. I'll put that up just in case anybody's so inclined. The show has not been receiving a whole lot of support lately, but that's on you, 100%. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow at noon, right? Monday through Friday, high noon, hot topics, current events, all that stuff. Also, hit like, hit subscribe, do all of those things. I pop in from time to time just to cover big breaking news stories. If something big is happening and I'm watching it, I'll come and I'll watch it with you guys, and we'll do it online together. It's fun. I like doing that. I want to do more of it, but it's so hard to gauge what's worthy. What's worthy to talk about? I don't know. All right, I'll tell you what's worthy to talk about tomorrow at noon on High Noon with me, Pugs Moran. Bye, guys. I love y'all. Have a great one.